"What's going on?" I asked, glancing around at their smug faces, each one carrying a look of satisfaction as they surrounded me. My in-laws leaned in, clearly relishing the moment, as if they had meticulously rehearsed this. Finally, one of them spoke up, their tone almost gleeful. "We need to have a serious talk." I took a steadying breath, keeping my tone calm. "All right, go on," I replied. My husband Edgar let out a deep sigh, his eyes avoiding mine. "I sold that house to my parents," he announced, pausing deliberately before adding, "and I think we should get a divorce." My in-laws exchanged pleased glances, their expressions smug as if they had won some silent battle without hesitation. I slid out the signed divorce papers, set my wedding ring on the table, and said, "Then I guess I'll be leaving." They were oblivious to the gravity of the situation awaiting them. My name is Madison, and I've just turned 50. Many years have passed since our marriage. Our children are now independent, leading lives away from us. I used to live the life of an ordinary salaried worker. But now, thanks to a friend's introduction, I spend my days as a teacher of handmade accessories. A hobby turned profession. This new job has become a turning point in my life, bringing fulfillment through interactions with my students and the joy of crafting every day. Some might have negative opinions about turning a hobby into a livelihood, but I am content. Edgar and I met by chance at the company where I used to work. He was employed at a client company at the time. As we started to meet often, through work-related social gatherings, our relationship deepened, and eventually we chose to marry out of love. After 3 years of marriage, our family was blessed with a healthy, energetic boy. He graduated from a well-known university and is now happily married, living a prosperous life. However, despite our son's success, the relationship between Edgar and me became increasingly difficult. Over the years, my husband underwent a transformation, displaying changes in behavior. The once gentle and considerate Edgar became demanding, treating me like nothing more than a housemaid. His ever-changing demands and preferences became a source of trouble for me. Lately, he has been easily angered, blaming me for trivial things with instances of verbal abuse. On the rise, I've been wanting to escape this life and start anew, but I'm tied down by an unpaid mortgage. Despite this, Edgar quit his job without a clear reason and now spends his days lazing around the house. He hardly lifts a finger to help with daily chores, leaving me to manage everything on my own. The house we live in was recently rebuilt, and I funded it all, managing the finances I saved bit by bit for its reconstruction. It embodies my wishes and aspirations, a house I worked hard to build. I don't want it to fall into Edgar's hands. If I leave beyond the mortgage issue, this house symbolizes my dreams, with features like the spacious kitchen reflecting my careful choices. Despite initial input from Edgar on the design, I covered all the costs and wanted my wishes to be respected. Facing challenges, the house eventually became a reality, fulfilling our dream. I experienced a profound sense of joy about our new home. However, the cost of construction significantly surpassed our initial estimates, compelling us to take on a much larger loan than anticipated. Accepting such a substantial loan in our 50s was unexpected, but the happiness our new home promised provided us with the energy to overcome this financial burden. On the flip side, Edgar appeared somewhat sulky, as his opinions and wishes were not well reflected in the house's design. He expressed discontent, considering it a waste of money. "This is just unnecessary, like throwing money down the drain," he would grumble, ignoring his complaints. I pressed on, and gradually he stopped talking to me, resorting to childish behaviours to provoke irritation. I wondered when this situation would end. A few months after moving into the new house, the doorbell rang unexpectedly. I prepared to go to the front door, but Edgar surprisingly got up before me, possibly aware of the visitor's identity. Soon, cheerful voices and laughter filled the entrance when the door to the living room opened. I saw my unexpected in-laws, Bradel and Emerson. I always felt pressure in my relationship with them. When we first announced our marriage, they treated me coldly, criticizing my lower social status and maintaining an awkward attitude. Even on our wedding day, their interference continued. Post-marriage and each interaction made me wonder how to handle the situation, despite thinking things had settled down. Their sudden visit surprised me. Greeting them politely, I felt a slight tension, but they passed by without a word. Intentionally ignoring my presence and bumping my shoulder, they marvelled at the house, expressing envy at the spacious kitchen. Edgar proudly showcased it to them, and upon their return, their faces looked satisfied. However, Edgar turned stern, raising his voice in anger. Toward me, hurry up and prepare tea and snacks overwhelmed. I hastily served them, but his parents seemed dissatisfied, commenting on the hospitality. Is this the best you can offer? Bradley muttered, and as they quickly finished, he complimented the house's interior. It's quite lovely, he noted, seemingly more interested in the design than in anything I had prepared. Edgar, with a broad smile, invited his parents to live together in the house, almost ignoring my presence. They listened to him and left. Leaving me watching their retreating figures, I felt a significant gap between us, witnessing him chat and laugh joyfully with his parents, something I hadn't seen in a long time. As a result of Edgar's invitation, his parents started visiting more frequently. At first, it was just a few times a month, then several times a week, until eventually it became almost daily. Yet their criticisms remained constant, and Edgar made no effort to stop them. His tendency to blame me, combined with his parents' escalating disapproval, became increasingly apparent. He frequently accused me of not listening and causing our son to suffer with complaints that seemed unending. Despite facing these daily challenges, I found myself unable to voice my frustration, resorting instead to words of apology. The in-laws' visits exceeded all expectations, and they even began coming more often. In my absence, they would arrive with Edgar, leaving behind unmistakable signs of their presence at home. Beer cans, empty bottles, and spills of alcohol that soaked into our new rug. Despite my protests, the new house began to smell of alcohol and felt dirty. I couldn't understand why Edgar, despite not contributing to the household, was quick to complain. His involvement in gambling added another layer of worry, as remnants of used bedding slips surfaced regularly. Explaining the risks of gambling and its impact on our finances seemed futile. The losses were a significant if-ic blow, I told him one evening, watching him shrug indifferently, especially since the money used for gambling is hard-earned through my work nearly a month into frequent visits from the in-laws. They targeted the times when I was out. One day, returning home early, I found them leisurely, spending time in our house. Surprised, I confronted them. "What are you doing here?" I asked, voice tense. They exchanged a look, one of them replying with a snarky tone. "We were just visiting, dear." It's not like you're ever around. Their words and indifferent attitude made it clear that they considered my presence bothersome, frustrated, and stressed by the insolent attitudes of Edgar and his parents. I realized I had reached my limit. Instead of succumbing to emotions, I decided it was time to devise a plan to address the situation. Amidst this turmoil, an unusual event occurred during a time when I was supposed to be away. The in-laws visited unexpectedly, expressing surprise at their unusual timing. I commented sarcastically, "Well, isn't this a surprise? It seems you only come by when I'm gone." They ignored my remark, boldly stepping inside. Edgar welcomed them with a smile, leading them to inspect various areas, from the kitchen to the bathroom, observing their meticulous checks. I sensed a hidden agenda behind their actions. Even as they left, they wore satisfied expressions, as if they had confirmed something. "What was that all about?" I asked Edgar, but he just shrugged. "None of your business," he replied dismissively. His behaviour hinted at concealing something from me. I suspected he was trying to manipulate me cunningly, but grasping the real intention proved challenging. Observing the situation became my only option. Then, one day after work, I returned home to find a large moving truck parked in front of our house, bearing the logo of a company named Moving Centre. Edgar appeared to be in discussions with the truck driver and representatives. When our eyes met, he pretended not to see me and disappeared inside the house. What shocked me more was the simultaneous arrival of my in-laws. They greeted me casually, and Edgar welcomed them, leading them into the house. The atmosphere felt tense, and as I followed them inside, I noticed a significant change. The familiar furniture and belongings I knew had vanished, replaced by my in-laws, ated furniture arranged as if this were their home. As I sat down on the sofa, they surrounded me with smirky smiles, conveying a sense of smugness. Their behaviour indicated a pre-planned action, and though anxious, I decided to quietly wait and see what would unfold. "We need to talk," one of the in-laws finally said, their tone almost gleeful. Bracing myself, I responded with feigned calmness. "What is it?" Edgar sighed deeply, avoiding my gaze. "I sold the house to my parents." He looked at me, watching for a reaction as he added, "And I think we should get a divorce." His parents nodded in agreement, their smirky smiles suggesting they were trying to toy with me. Despite their revelation, I remained unfazed. Having anticipated their plan, I promptly signed the divorce papers, placed my wedding ring on the table, and declared, "I'll be leaving the house." Then I had suspicions about the unnatural behaviours of Edgar and my in-laws, especially since their frequent visits when I wasn't home to confirm my suspicions. I installed surveillance cameras around the house, synced with my smartphone. On the first day, I observed their daily conversations. However, one day I stumbled upon footage where Edgar and his parents joyfully discussed selling the house. Shocked by this revelation, I decided to plan my next steps, searching for a new residence, based on the information obtained from the surveillance cameras. I took the initiative to transfer the home loan from my name to Edgar's. If they planned to remove me from our home, I believed they should take over the mortgage payments and responsibilities. The monthly mortgage, amounting to $1,700, was paid for my hard-earned salary, doubting that Edgar and his parents could afford this. I resolved not to provide any financial assistance free from the troublesome relationship. I moved to my new, well-arranged home with new furniture, ready to embark on a new chapter in my life. On my day off, I relished the prospect of thorough rest, sleeping in past noon. Just as I was about to doze off again, the doorbell abruptly rang, to my surprise. Edgar and his in-laws stood at my doorstep. Uninvited, "What are you doing here?" I demanded, blocking their entrance. They barged past me without answering, spreading out a document in front of me. "You changed the name on the house loan without our permission." Edgar accused his tone, indignant, expressing disbelief at their sudden appearance. I replied, "Yes, I did. After all, you wanted me out, didn't you?" They were shocked, claiming they were currently unemployed and couldn't afford the high monthly loan. Edgar, his frustration evident, shouted, "We can't pay that amount." Attempting to enlighten them on the consequences of defaulting, I explained, "If you don't pay the interest and late fees will increase the final payment, and the bank doesn't care about your situation." Edgar initially seemed skeptical, but after searching for information online, his expression turned to one of shock and distress. "What are we going to do?" his mother muttered, her face pale. I shrugged, keeping my tone neutral. "Maybe look for a job. It's time for a fresh start." I concluded their faces grew even paler as they realised the seriousness of the situation. They admitted to having no savings or assets with Edgar, burdened by substantial gambling debts and no stable income. Frustrated, they pleaded for understanding and assistance, emphasising the years we spent together. "We've been through so much," Edgar added, trying to sound sincere, unmoved by their pleas. I shut the door, saying, "I'm done. You made your choice." Frustrated, they reported me to the police, leading to their removal from my property. Eventually, due to financial constraints, they relocated to a more affordable apartment on the outskirts of town. Edgar secured a part-time job supporting his family with that income. Meanwhile, my life remained unchanged, and I focused on my job in my free time. I started a blog on handmade crafts, gaining attention and doubling my monthly income requests for me to serve as an instructor for workshops and courses increased. I had no thoughts of remarrying and planned to navigate life independently. One day, I found an old household account book from the early days of my marriage, bringing back memories of our financial struggles with a sense of resolve. I decided to build a new happiness on my own, placing the account book back on the shelf.